Okay, before class, we went over course policies and things like that. And now we're ready to jump in here and do some stuff. One thing that is probably going to look familiar to people who had me in class before. Well, if you look at the label here in module 1, that's going to look familiar. But when you click on it, it's going to look a little bit different than your other classes. This is a software development class. I know you are capable of writing, if you're in college, I know you're capable of writing a paragraph. I usually want to do something more. So an essay that I might have casually mentioned right before the break there, I mentioned there's no Python essay. Something I often do would be like a history of Python, but you have to do it in a GUI and you have to make the buttons to like insert citations or insert page numbers. Because I know everybody in this class has probably done a thing or two with Microsoft Word. I know you can click those buttons, but this is software development. You make those buttons. I like to look at those things. So for the introduction, and to just get right in, you have to make a small program that introduces you. So instead of writing a paragraph introducing yourself, write a program that introduces you. So first off, talking in third person is fine. You can see from my example there, I only saved my name in one variable, and I just kept using that because it's the program talking about me, not that first person paragraph writing. A couple people already turned one in, so I don't want to scroll down too far, but one thing that I do ask is anytime you do something other than write text in a discussion board, please no downloading files. Do not make your classmates download files. Most anything you want to share with them can be embedded right there. At the very least, if you can't get the file in there explicitly, you can take a video screen capture of it and put a video there. So it does need to be visible without downloading any files. So screenshots, and use the insert button. I don't want to scroll down to people's things already, so I click this. Okay, yeah. And use the embed button. Use the button to embed images, or that Canvas Studio plugin button, or there's a whole bunch of things over in the plugin button. I use those things to make sure it's visible so people don't have to download files. That can be a security risk, and we're probably fine here, right? Nobody's going to be malicious to their classmates and try to put a virus or something. But in the world at large, that's going to be a big issue. So we need to break those habits. So I always try to do that. So avoid downloading files, and use the embed button so they can read it. And I believe it should be set up so that if things go wrong, you have, I scroll off there real quick. I'm just trying to avoid showing anybody that's already done that. A few people have had me before, and I regularly do this. I do the SDEV 120 class like this. So get started right off and write a small program that introduces yourself. You can see the example there. Save a certain number of variables, more than what I have in the example here. That's just a quick reference. Save some variables, put them together, and things like that. So we want to look at something like that. And you'll see there's different IDEs we're going to work with. You'll need at least 2 IDEs. You'll need a traditional something text-based to make the traditional Python script, but you will also need a notebook for this class. Jupyter notebooks, get those installed. We'll talk about them in detail soon. Basically, you go pip to install it. So I'll hit Windows X to get to the control menu and hit I to open the terminal. And you want to be able to install stuff and modify your Python environment. That's what we call that. When we install Python, it's called the Python environment. And we can run lots of Python environments. Any version of Python is already configured to run a virtual version of every previous version of Python. We want to test in different situations and do things. We have to keep track of that. So that's something that commonly shows up because we might have made a lot of changes to our own computer. And we'll do stuff and the code works fine, but then when we send it to somebody else, it doesn't run on anybody else's computer because they're just configured different. So it's pretty common to set up virtual environments and test in those, and that way you start with a blank slate. And that way you can easily track everything that's there. So you want to use pip to install stuff. Right, so that's the preferred installer package. You can also use Anaconda if you want. I'm going to use pip because that's what I prefer. That's the official one. It is not the only one, but most of your instructions will include this. If you want to use Anaconda or Voila, that's fine. I can answer a few questions about those, but I tried them out and there was usually something that I didn't like as much, so I just went back to the default one. So yeah, I'm just going to use the official one in class, and I can answer a question or two, but there's a good chance that you have a detailed question about Voila and that you're installing packages in your Python environment with Voila. That I think I spelled that wrong. See, I use it so frequently. The French word, did I spell it right that time? Is it IO or OI? Whichever way, but if you use that installer, there's a good chance I'll have to help you look it up. I've tried it out a couple times. I'm going to use the preferred installer package, is what that stands for. So like pip install Jupyter. Oh wait, no, sorry, not Jupyter. Jupyter is a company. They have a whole bunch of stuff. We want pip install notebook, and it'll fall back to Jupyter's notebooks. So to install that, you just do that. It's already installed on mine. Yeah, mine says requirement already met, but you'll see a bunch of meters there, which I was wanting to look at tonight, 728. So yeah, we'll see the meters. We'll probably just do a loop that doesn't do anything except delay for a second so that we can actually see the meter do something. We might as well look at that. We'll talk about that in a second. If that doesn't work, like if you're on pip and if you just type pip and hit enter, you should get instructions like this. If you're not doing that, the installer has a little checkbox at the bottom of it. The first page of the installer has a checkbox that used to be checked by default, but it's not anymore, that says add to environments. So you have to add it to environment variable, which we will see next week. We're short on time, and that would we will see it soon. But something that will work on every system if you didn't click that box is ask for the Python interpreter first. So Python and then -m, so a load of module, and use the pip module. So Python -m pip, so Python interpreter, run the pip module, and install notebook would be the same thing. You'll see, let me do something else. Okay. I just did a factory reset, so there's pretty much nothing installed on mine. But then we'll see it needs to go download it and do all that stuff. Shouldn't take too long. There we go. Yeah, so the little meter, might want those. So that was one of the things I was going to look at this evening. I'm going to cancel that. I don't really need to do that. I just wanted to look at the meter. You might want that at some point. So this was another change for this semester. You will need to do that, either pip install notebook, and then after it's installed, then you come over to the terminal and type Jupyter notebook. We will be doing a bunch of stuff in terminals. We'll look at some different ones throughout the semester. One of the things tonight, there will be a bash terminal that runs Windows if you would prefer bash and run on a Windows machine, or any of the terminals. I'll jump back and forth. I have a Chromebook and the MacBook with me all the time, so we use different those. I have at least 3 virtual machines on this one. I just did a factory reset, so I don't know why I said at least. I have 3 virtual machines on this PC. I just did a factory reset 3 days ago. I know what I've installed since then. 6 months from now, I might forget how many virtual machines I have, but and things like that. I'll look at different. I won't always be using the Windows machine. I will probably use this one the most, though. Different terminals, different things to get to. But one change. Well, before I close the terminal here, one thing we're going to look at tonight is GitHub. And if you didn't know, the name there, Git, is an instruction we put in terminal. So it's named after a computer instruction. Linus Torvalds invented this. He always named stuff after himself, the inventor of Linux. And if you're not familiar with that word, you've probably heard it, at least in movies and stuff. Git is traditional British for an unpleasant gentleman. In American English, we kept a word for, we kept the female version, starts with a B. I think most people know that one. But in Britain, they still have the male version as well. So it's the British version of that, and Linus Torvalds always named stuff after himself, so he gave it that name. Was the story I heard. I don't know details. I wasn't sitting there that room, but when he was in creating Linux, he needed that extra little addition. So he created that, and GitHub is named after that instruction, which has also been updated. So we'll look at the update and stuff, but we will be doing lots of stuff in terminals this semester. I wanted to point out that while that was open, just in case we run out of time to do GitHub stuff tonight. You will see lots of GitHub instructions on here, all sorts of details of fancy stuff to do, but anything we do in this class can probably be handled from the web interface. So it's sort of supplemental here. So we'll see that. Oh, I closed terminal, didn't I? Windows X. Go back in there. And after you install Jupyter, after you do pip install notebook, you type Jupyter Notebook in your terminal on any system. I have it on Chromebook, but Chromebook is just a Linux system, and most people don't use it that way, but I have it set up as a regular Linux system. So there's a bash shell to go in and just type in the terminal, type Jupyter Notebook, and it opens up here. You go to whatever working folder, choose the version of Python. Right now there's only one because I just reset my computer. But before long, you'll probably see a long list of versions of Python you can choose. And then it comes in different cells. So we can run some Python code, like print hello world. And if you push Control Enter, it runs that instruction. If you push Alt Enter, it runs that instruction and goes to the next cell. So then we can do different Python code here and organize it. Since I'm going to go to something else here shortly, because we're in preview mode, right? It's week one, trying to rush through a bunch of stuff so that y'all can actively do things over the weekend. Notice this does run in the browser. We're in a browser, so there's also markup cells, or sorry, markdown cells, not up, where we can put text. So instead of comments, this is just some text. And when I hit Alt Enter to get to the next cell, you see it's there, the text. So wherever there's like prompts, actually questions, you write the program, you might need to answer some questions. So you can just type those in markup cells. But you can mix your code and that. And it is a web page. So we're in preview mode, so I'll just do something really quick. So we can do HTML code because we're on a web page. The browser will know perfectly well what to do with that. H1 hello /H1, and then maybe a paragraph tag for the world. And then when I run that, whoops. You see this little drop-down menu here still thinks that's code, and that's definitely not Python code, that's HTML. So I switch it to Markdown, and now run that, and see that the browser knows what to do with HTML. Y'all probably would have guessed that playing around by the weekend anyway. So you can make things look a lot nicer than just comments. Put a style tag in there and actually run some CSS, make it look really, really nice. And we get to like the data analytics AWS thing. It's all in Jupyter notebooks, and then they basically use markdown cells to write assignments and examples and reference material right there. So you have all the markdown cells and then a bunch of cells to type Python code in to work with. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. And when you get back to your terminal, Zoom thumbnails are in my way again. I'll move those. When you get back to your terminal, notice that the server is still running. So it started a little virtual server, and the Jupyter notebooks run from that server. In any terminal application, Control C is canceled. And for Mac users, it really is Control C, not Command C. So you don't have, it's not the alternate copy. It really is Control C. Will cancel in pretty much any of your terminals. So there's Jupyter notebooks. There's step-by-step instructions there, and it's copied from the IBM online course. So they were those instructions were typed up, expecting that people were on their own trying to figure this out. I wanted to kind of preview some of it. Also need regular IDEs, things to work with. My personal favorite is Spider, because a lot of the most popular IDEs have been around for a while, and Python was an afterthought. Like PyCharm was originally a plugin for the Eclipse, which was originally developed for Java and then extended to include the rest of the C family, since Java is just one member of a larger family of languages. And then other languages, and Python was just years later was thrown in as a plugin as an afterthought. And that's how most IDEs treat it. VS Code, it was added as an afterthought afterwards, because it's not one of Microsoft's proprietary languages. Which VS Code, if you compare writing C# in VS Code to, if you use VS Code, compare writing C# to Python and VS Code, and you'll see that it's clearly, they clearly had one of those languages in mind when they developed that. But it was an afterthought. Spider, however, was created with Python. They used what my personal favorite GUI package, Wix Python or WX Python. It's a really nice package, but it was made with Python and Python in mind the whole time. It wasn't an afterthought. So it's one of my personal favorite IDEs. The link's there, you can download it. That's probably what I will use most often in class. Because yeah, Python wasn't an afterthought, just added in later. Like PyCharm eventually became its own thing, but it still started as a plugin. So some of that occasionally shows through. Not that it doesn't work, right? It's just, it wasn't focused that way. This one, they sat down and on the initial drawing board, before they even started writing anything down, they knew they were making something for Python specifically. And those sort of things do show up. So things we would expect: text editor, close temp file, get a little template here. We'll talk about templates soon. You can change that, edit it. Use the IPython console instead of the regular interpreter, which has some advantages we'll talk about. We'll talk about the excruciating details soon, in preview mode tonight. Print hello world, and just the normal thing there. If I put my cursor here by the word print and hit Control-I, see this tab over here that was the help menu goes right to it. So you get the official documentation. It links to the official documentation for Python. Really, really useful. Just hit Control-I. And if you include the official documentation, or you write your documentation in a format that will generate websites instead of arbitrary comments. We'll talk about comments probably next week. I'll get pushed back. Instead of arbitrary comments that don't do anything, it will be able to read that as well. A variable explorer to watch things. I guess I need a x equals 3, y equals 4, z equals x times y. And when I run that, you see you stored the variables and stuff there. When you download it, it has a special one that's already in Python environment configured to go with that, which is 3.8 currently, I believe. We can control that. We can change that. I've already mentioned multiple Python environments, so we won't see this for a couple of weeks. But when you have Python 3 installed, if you go to projects, or sorry, under tools and preferences, and under Python interpreter, you can see which Python to use. So there's the one that came with it, or you can use whichever version of Python you want to use. If you have 3.11, 3.10, 3.7, you have 10 different versions of Python installed. Maybe they're all 3.11, but that you imported different things, different modules to them, did your own customizations to it. Just point to it there and notice that it's pointing to the executable file, the actual Python interpreter itself. If you're not sure where to find that, a good place to look on any system, if you go to idle, that little default one that came with it is where I always look. Go to a new file, and when you hit save, by default, it will try to save where Python is installed. So you can just copy and paste the address from there. Is a quick way to look for it. By the end of the semester, you'll probably get used to where it installs by default. And then make sure you choose the exe, and then it'll run. We do have to add one thing in the command prompt for that. I'll turn it back up. And then you want to run pip install spider-kernels. That has things like the IPython console that's not in the language by default, and has a few things from Anaconda and a few things from Jupyter that they used when they built it. So you want to install those so to run, just run that command. It's already been run on mine. And then you can use any version of Python. That's the one that this IDE requires. Or for our class, it'll be fine to use the previous one. And since it's probably going to show up, another useful thing on here, if you go to editor, down to editor, and under advanced setting, right here is where you edit the template file. So edit template files, so all that stuff that starts off. Get that out of the way. Change the created by, who it's on. One thing I did ask is that you let me know which version of Python you're installing on, because I've already mentioned that a few times, so kind of hinting that I'm expecting you to use several different versions of Python before the semester's out. Don't install it once. I'm expecting to see some things on 3.11, some things on 3.7, and some variants. So that might be another reason to just leave Spider at the default and have something else, your favorite text editor and terminal using 3.11. Then you have two versions ready to go. Virtual environments, maybe you want to add which version of Python you're using into the comments there. And just make some customizations. SDEV 220 spring 2023. And then when you save that file, I'll save it and then close that. I closed this earlier one, don't save that. You see the template stuff shows right up. There's all the templates set up, which most IDEs and most languages will do that. So that's a software development thing. Your IDE is going to have a default template. Even your text editors, you can set up a default template. Just like I know there's going to be this stuff on every single file. No need to type it every time. It's an active subject, so you're going to, if you're interested in using this is one I'll use most often in class. And it's a really nice IDE where Python wasn't an afterthought. It was designed for Python from the beginning. Normal debugging tools, x equals 3, y is 4, z is x plus y, print z, and the green run button just runs the program, or the blue run button enters debug mode, so we can just maybe put a breakpoint maybe here. Like I've got a bug. I'm come over and click write the line numbers. Oh, didn't click. There we go. Why isn't that clicking? Oh, there's nothing on there. I can't click by a blank line. Click by a click there. So when we get there, we hit the blue run button. Then it'll run up to that line and pause. We can see it there. The next one over is steps. Run that one instruction. Examine the state of the program, step to the next program. Debugging tools, we have those everywhere. Built in here, step to here, and we hit the end of the program. Useful little things. Let me add some stuff, extra stuff. Print more stuff. And I just need some lines here. That's why I'm doing this. Print white space. There we go. And maybe we need something going on down here. I'm not a big fan of the comments that don't do anything. So annotations can be useful. One of the very most popular ones that you probably use, we have these in just about every language, start with a comment symbol. So it's a comment, and then @ symbol and to do in all lowercase letters. If you haven't seen that before, that's part of the Python programming language. It's not something special to the IDE. It gives us a to do comment. To do print more stuff. I don't know. Just put something there. And if I'm way up here working, and under source, we see show to do list. So annotation comments actually do something. I'll look mostly at those, and then the comments that generate websites, so that we don't have to, so that we generate the documentation. We don't just we don't expect people to go read the comments in our code to figure out how to run our program. Comments that do stuff. So you see the to-do list here, and that is a link. So when I click it, it jumps right down to that line. That's why I kept it in here. That's a really, really useful one. So comment symbol @ to do in all lowercase is the Python way to do it. Most of our languages have to do comments. We will see more of those in preview mode tonight. And then, yeah, the tutorial, I keep looking at the wall for a clock. Yeah, let me close this and open a new one. So that first, don't say that. Nope, don't say that. So that first discussion board, you're going to write a program, just save your name to some variables, print some things out. So like name equals Chris. Whoops, that's not a string. Put my name on there. Mood equals. If we're writing a message to somebody, how are we going to describe our mood? Are we going to send them a word? We're not going to send them a word, right? Like on a phone. Let me open up the text message thing on my phone to point to a button. So I used this one earlier because it looks. So when we type a message, we're sitting there typing a bunch of words. And if we want to send somebody, let somebody know what mood we're in, we're not going to type a word, right? We're going to hit this little button and then choose what the appropriate smiley face to send them is, right? So that's another change to this semester for those who've had me before. Usually at the end, I do what's called odds and ends, little things that'll be useful. And well, really, that right there is what made me change my mind on doing that at the end. Because usually if we do emojis at the end, we're usually way past all the console stuff. So knowing how to print an emoji in a console isn't quite so useful. So in my lecture notes, every week I put extra useful things. Emoji and TQDF. So Emoji Python, just normal search. You all know how searching works. Here in the official place, pip install emoji. That's straightforward, easy to use. It looks like this. So we're typing along, we'll print out a string, print, then we say emoji.emojize, and then type the string we want, and we have a text version to put that in there. So this has a cheat sheet, a link for a cheat sheet. Installation. Yeah, Carpe Diem. Yeah, this one on the GitHub IO has, oh, maybe that's not the one I want. That has all the documentation. Cheat sheet, there it is. And here's the code. Here's the codes for those. So colon smile colon is the normal smiley face. Colon point underscore down. So let me copy that and put that in the chat room. So there's that link, so we can use those. Maybe put that while we're near the beginning and doing console stuff. I was thinking that's probably a better time to talk about where the emoji library instead of that. If you do use Python, Control L clears, but so does the word clear and CLS because it accesses a terminal, but it's accessing a terminal. If we need to type in terminal commands, we do like VI text editor. If anybody's ever used a lot of bad stuff in bash shells and you just want to run it straight from the VI text editor. I noticed recently VS Code brags about how you can run terminal stuff from the thing. It's like, that's been around since the 70s. You can do that in the original VI, not even, you don't even have to go to VI approved to run from a text editor. So I don't know why they started adding that in as a bragging thing, but all text editors can access your terminal. Because we're writing Unicode, and that's what the terminal needs. But it starts with an exclamation mark, and then pip install emoji, put it right here. And it seems to be taking a moment. There we go. Okay, yeah, I guess for some reason it didn't show the meters, so it showed up afterwards. But that, instead of going to the terminal, able to put that right in the IPython console. And you may have noticed a lot of preview mode tonight, so it passed quickly. Jupyter Notebooks also uses the IPython console. So if you need to do things like pip there, just start with an exclamation mark, and that redirects it back to the actual terminal that is running all of these applications. Or just open your terminal and type it there. We all have our own unique style, right? Multiple ways, but you can do that from here. And we do have to restart it. So I'm going to close this, just a little tab, and then that opens a new one. So anything I run now is in the one that just opened because it's a terminal. So if we make changes, there's a lot of things configured when it opens. So if we make changes, we have to close it and reopen it for those changes to take effect. I think that'll be enough on this one. So now we can maybe use that import module. So import emoji and mood, let's say colon, where'd the cheat sheet go? I'll just use a regular smiley face. Colon, smile, colon. That would have probably been my first guess, but I wonder, there's a lot of emojis out there. So if you want to use those in your introduction, that will be fine as well. Oh, I'll probably use the Sublime text editor occasionally too. That's the one I prefer, but as long as we have a place to write text, it doesn't matter where you write the text, as long as you have a place to write text and run the code. So colon, smile, colon, and just store that there. So then I can put print. I'll print an F string and say name is mood. We'll talk about this in detail soon. If you haven't seen that sort of printing before, you can also concatenate together. There's lots and lots of ways to format things in Python. So in the prereqs to this, you would have seen some generalizations that apply to lots of languages, and maybe not necessarily the easiest way that it's done in Python. Maybe not necessarily the Python specific way. So we'll see some of those. So if I hit run, oh, it didn't quite work there. And notice that that wasn't quite enough. So we'll go back to the instructions. There was more to it, right? It wasn't just type that particular word. We had to actually use that library. So the formatted strings aren't going to work here, I don't think. Let me look back at the documentation. So print emoji.emojize, and then the string we want. So instead of the formatted string, and notice it goes right in there. So it looks like that's what we had, and I threw that in the formatted string. But the formatted string will cause problems there. So I'm going to go back to concatenation. So print emoji.emojize, and then Well, I'm skipping the variables just to put it in here. Chris is smile. And then close the other parenthesis. Oops, I don't need to save this. There's nothing worth saving here. Oh, maybe I have to start Python, restart Python altogether. Not that. Copy, and I'll close this, don't save. Try restarting it since I did just install that module. Might need to do a full restart. I thought the kernel would work. Sometimes that seems to be enough, and other times it does not. But I will just paste that in here. Okay, why is that not working? Import emoji. Emoji.emojize. Well, okay, it doesn't recognize that one. I went to the cheat sheet, but it doesn't seem to know what that is. Let me grab something from here. Let's see if thumbs up works. That's one they actually use in their example. Okay, there we go. Smile was on the cheat sheet, but it didn't work. So I'll just switch over to that. This is thumbs up. There we go. So if you want to do that in your introduction, import the emoji module, and that's kind of part of the English language anymore, right? And notice it is just in a string. So any place that goes on a string, that will work. If you're in a simple one like idle, let me jump over to idle real quick. And emoji.emojize colon thumbs underscore up. The worst it does is like, oh, import emoji. Do that first. And then copy and paste that line. So the worst it'll do is you get the outline. There's a fallback. And that's just in the string. So if you're putting buttons on a GUI, that's still a character Python knows how to draw once you install that module. A very, very useful one. And I decided to start working those in along the way instead of waiting to the end, like showing emojis on the last day of the semester, or the second from last day of the semester when we're way past doing anything in a console. It won't be as useful, be probably useful for that. There's that one. Another good module, just that way we're doing stuff to start off with. In my lecture notes, you'll see I also put this TQDM. That's not an acronym. It's Airbag word. If you add some E's in between all of those letters, you get the Airbag word for process. It's always weird when you see a bunch of like 4 consonants. And it's like, oh, that's not an acronym, by the way, but TQDM in Python. Oh, that's not the page I was looking for. It's the same thing. There's really only one thing in there. Let me go back over to the terminal. If you do pip install TQDM, download and install that, get all that ready. So if we go back over to say Spider now. Okay. The IPython console automatically updated. So I guess I didn't even need to update. I didn't even need to close it last time, because this was open before I ran that instruction and it imported fine. So that gives us a progress bar. So import TQDM, like when we were in pip, we see that little download and the progress bar in the console. That can be useful to have. I don't really have much to do, so I'm just going to import time and delay every time through a loop. So like import time, and going through this so quickly is based off everybody in here has seen some Python before, I believe. It shows up in the prerequisite classes. If you haven't seen any before, that's kind of the assumption going in here. Let me know, and we will get that straightened out soon. Spend a little more time introducing things, but I'm kind of going off the assumption everybody has seen some, since both prerequisites for this class use it. So we have those. So maybe in a for loop, so for I in range, you all would have seen something like this: range of 1,000, range of 100. We want to do something. I'm just going to say print I, and then time dot sleep. Is it time dot sleep I want, or time dot delay? Oh, time dot sleep 0.1, which means a tenth of a second. So maybe 50 will be enough. So now when we run that, we can see that there's a delay in printing out that number. Right? Get that slight delay and mimic a program that takes a while. Because obviously counting to 50 or counting to 100, I guess 500 wouldn't be bad. 100 wouldn't be bad. I haven't seen 50. It's going to take a minute. And we can use TQDM instead of to kind of show how long it's going to be in. So we import it, and then instead of range, for I and TQDM of range, because range represents something we'll have. Right? Normally, y'all probably saw the other type of for loop, right? We have a list, we can say for item in list. So we wrap the TQDM around that. We're going through something for line and file. The computer can look at that and see how much it is. Range of 1,000 in the example here, or 100 that in there. We can wrap that in TQDM. Oh, it's A's, not E's. I guess that's trichotom. Arabic word for process. Actually, it means a couple of things, but progress, not process. Sorry. One of those P words. I just remember what the abbreviation is, because that's the part we need as programmers. So instead of just range of 100, let's wrap that in TQDM. .tqdm. So module dot object in the module, or module dot method in the module. I don't think their example did both of them. Yeah, their example, they imported it explicitly, so we didn't have to type the module name. I just, for import, I think everybody's seen Python before, so y'all know if we just do import, we have to use that name of that, and then the only method in there has the same name as the module. So tqm.tq.am. So when we run it, notice we get that progress bar. Something's happening. We can see the progress, which the place I put that's probably not the best spot for it, but you can see that. Doing it there, actually see the progress bar. So if we put it in different places, you play around with it. It's an active subject, best way to learn it. Instead of just immediately moving that, I'll put it in the proper place next. I'll put it in the proper place next time. That way y'all can play around with it. You will very quickly figure it out, because there's not too many places we could put time.sleep here. Not too many places we could put those through. Not only so many lines on those combinations. So many ways we could do that combinations. Maybe I just thought of something else that might work. Play around with that, see what it works. Those would be some useful things, because, well, right now we're not to any big stuff there you would need to show a progress bar, but we will be before long. Downloading a file, you can see how big the file is on the way. And on your introduction, you might want to put some emojis, because that's kind of part of the English language, or at some point you might want to include those. So we might as well just go ahead and include them like they're part of our normal English language that we need to type in our output. I decided that would be better along the way, to share the useful stuff along the way instead of just waiting to the end. when we're way past consoles. Anybody have any questions about those? It's an active subject. We learn by doing. There was that cheat sheet. I just put Emoji Python in there, and then it went right to this site, and they have some examples, and somewhere on the Carpe Diem site. Oh, this is one. This is the official one that they made when they made it. So this has all their stuff. If I scroll down here, you'll see Smile is not on there, but Smile is way down the list. There's a lot of them. It's gonna take a. I've been scrolling for a minute and just now hit C's. They have lots of smiley faces, but they don't have basic Smile, which is included in Unicode, the original one.
Nope, I'm just glad that we're using a better text editor than the basic idle one.
Oh yeah. Is that what you? And at this level, I encourage you to try different ones. Right. This is my favorite one. This is my personal favorite place to write the regular files. Notebooks are something different. We'll talk about that in detail soon. Python's an interpreted language, which is one of the things that make it slow. Notebooks actually run compiled Python, which takes care of one of the issues making it slow. Still not going to be as fast as the C family, but that's not really an issue in 2023 anyway. So we'll use nice editors, and at the 200 level is usually where I try to recommend to people to try different ones. See which one you like. This is what I'll be using in class most often, because it has the variable things and it has a plot thing right here. We have a file explorer, so we don't have to leave to get to all our files and things like that. Lots of debugging tools. But as long as you have a place to write code and copy along, it'll be fine. Those would be useful libraries to work with. Oh, I better save something. Yeah, that'll work. I'll save that. Save. Go over my documents folder and the delete folder, and I'll save this as first example. First_example.py. I already got that saved, but I already mentioned GitHub, right? There's gonna be lots of things. We'll see doing that. It's an instruction that we put in terminals. So we're gonna be using GitHub. When you submit your assignments, your homework assignments, you're gonna upload the code to GitHub and just send me the link to it. That's the standard way to transfer code in our world. So we might as well start practicing in the classroom. So you'll need to set up a GitHub repository. I believe the instructions that were in here, unless I muted them, I might have muted them. Yeah, I turned them off from the course shell. The instructions went through all sorts of detailed things, and they only did it in the terminal. It was super complicated. That was one of the things that confused people a lot last summer. Is when he made the guy made the statewide shell, he was very excited about being the first one to update it and stuff. And he got carried away, and he showed all kinds of fancy things and took it further than it would need to be. There are extra things, more than what is needed to carry out the assignments. So that was what was confusing people the most, is they would have 5 pages of instructions and they only needed the first sentence. So there's lots of ways there. I might turn them back on if anybody wants to see them, but in general, anything we do on GitHub, anything we do in this class will probably work on the web interface. The web page, if you go to github.com, create an account if you don't have it, set that up. You can create unlimited repositories and put an unlimited number of files in each repository. There's no limit. You also want to do this. Download Git. There's this thing, Git SCM. This updates the instruction. I said Linus Torvalds made that when he was making Linux to begin with, which I probably said his name wrong because I don't have the correct accent to say it. But the world's changed since then, so there's updated versions, but all the terminals still know that original version. So if you download this, it has better credential management, and you won't have to enter your password every time the the computer automatically handles multi-factor authentication for you. Like you don't even have to answer the text message. Multi-factor authentication level security in the background, handled between two machines entirely. So even more secure than you answering the text messages and typing in that code. But that level. So you want to download this and you get other things with it. If I start typing git, whoops. You also get a bash shell, which is configured to run Windows. So if you want to run Windows, if you want to control your Windows machine from a bash shell, that's because bash is text. The CPUs use binary code. So whatever terminal we use has to be translated anyway. I've seen that though. A lot of people offer like, oh, isn't bash for Linux? No, bash, the machine itself needs binary code. Whatever we type in, whether PowerShell, bash, Zeesh, fish, whatever terminal, it has to be translated anyway. So obviously the people have made a translator for bash. Bash is a language, so we can run it on Windows as well. And download that for your appropriate system, and then it'll update that credential management and all the other updates in the background. They won't make any difference. If you want to use the old original one, the only difference you will notice is that you have to type in your password. And you'll get a warning message saying you have to stop using passwords. That's not very secure. That's like what we did in the 1980s. The world knows better now. So you will want to download that, and then things are all automated in the background. And you'll see instructions. We can do all of it in the terminal, but I'll kind of mix and match things. So there's also GetGooey. There's a desktop GUI. And there's also a command prompt so that if you're on a Linux machine and want to use the Windows command prompt, you know all the DOS commands been doing stuff since the 80s or something, and know DOS commands really well. You can run a Linux one from the traditional Windows operating system. We're programmers. We tell the machine what to do. We don't have to adapt what we do to fit the machine. We're the ones that tell the machine what to do. So those options come down, and I will mix and match them. So GetGooey, the desktop GUI application, we'll look at that next week. That has by far the best view of the history. That one I think is the best way to do the history. The website has by far the best way to create a new repository. We can do it in any of them. Well, obviously that's an opinion, but on the website, I think is the best way to create a new repository. So we need one for the class, and you'll need one for the class. You can set up a new one every week. You can set up one for the class. Organize the files any way you want. If I have trouble finding anything, I will ask for it. I will ask you about it. When I'm grading stuff, I'm much more likely to send you an email about problems than put a bad grade on it until we run out of time at the end. Use the GetGooey, Get Bash, probably mix and match them. We'll probably use the terminal the most, but I think the website has the easiest way to create a new repository. The terminal is the easiest to pull from the repository and push back to the repository. And you can pull from any repository, you can pull things all day long. You have to have permission, you need a password, or you need access to push things back to the repository. But it's open source code, so you can pull from anybody's repository. But in order to change stuff on the code on there, you have to have access. The terminal is the best for that, and for viewing the history and navigating between the history, I actually think GetGooey has the best one. So it's actually my personal opinion on what's the best ones to use depend on the situation. I think it's easiest to create a new repository here, and the biggest problem with the web repository is we're going through a browser. We have 100 file upload limit. Anything in this class, we probably won't pass 100 files, but I think most people are well aware of it. I will say it repeatedly through this semester. Academia, we are very constrained for time. We have anything that has in our classroom has to be selected to fit in our time constraints. So what we will do here, the world at large has moved beyond. Everybody remember that news story last year? The news was freaking out like, Facebook laid off 11,000 programmers, and it probably made some of y'all worry if you're in the SDEV program, right? That was not bad news. That's CNN and Fox News just like to say it in a bad way. The other way to say that is that last project that Facebook hired 43,000 programmers for was successful, and on the next project they only need 32,000 programmers. So the evening news reported that as layoffs. That's not quite what layoff means. The next project doesn't mean it, but Facebook's last big project required 43,000 programmers. The world at large is moved to software much bigger than we see in a classroom. It could not possibly fit. So you will want to be prepared for that as you approach graduation, because that is a big step. Right? It's not like the next level. We're going from things that fit in a classroom to things that require 43,000 people to work on that project. So the world at large has moved on. So the 100 file limit is absurd there, but for anything that fits in a classroom, we're probably going to have less than 100 files to upload. So the website will work for anything there. And yeah, when you see the news story, always remember news likes to put bad spins on things, even when it's good stuff. Although it does bring another question. Anybody have thoughts on what Facebook had 43,000 programmers do? They didn't change the style sheet. Right? Doesn't take that many programmers to change the style sheet on the Facebook website. You'd think it's something really big. Most people don't really know what they were working on. It has to do with meta. They made a standardized library. That's why VR systems are standardized now. It took a lot of programmers to do that, right? That's a big thing. To do a standardized library that every VR system can use the same one. Was what that project was. The next big project like that only required 30,000 programmers, but still something very large, much bigger than we could even really discuss thoroughly in a classroom and classroom time constraints. We can mention that it exists. But whenever you click the new button, you'll see this page, create a new repository, you'll have your account name. Most of y'all probably already have a GitHub page, right? So just give it a name. So this is SDEV 220-spring 2023. Have this pattern I name it, it'll say if it's okay, give it a description. Class examples from a software development with Python course in spring 2023 at Ivy Tech Community College. Whoops. We can do all that. We have access to all this through the terminal, but then that's a lot of parameters in the terminal. That's why I think the website's easier, because we have boxes to type into. It's going to be public, so y'all can download the class examples, initialize it with a README. Yeah, we'll want a README. One of the things, if you haven't had me before, I do ask for a bug report. It doesn't have to be thorough. It doesn't even have to be grammatically correct. Just give a bulleted list will be sufficient, and just write up what went wrong while you were developing the program and what you did to fix it. One thing, it will let me know what needs covered in more detail in class. Like maybe everybody hit the same bug. It's like, oh, that probably should have been explained better in last week's lecture. I'll make sure and cover that thoroughly. But also it does the standard preview, engage, review. That 3-step process. It gives you one more review on what you just did. Instead of moving on immediately, think about the process to improve learning, better understanding it. A bulleted list is fine if you want to write more, if you want to write lots of details. Review, there's not hard requirements, but it is 10% of every homework assignment. If you skip the bug report, automatically drops 10% off your grade. Because you all know how to write Python code. That's the fun part. And make sure we're doing the not fun part too. Throughout the years teaching software development courses, a lot of people have found they like to go Google like templates. So you just go Google bug report template. And some people like to do it this way. Template to fill out a document and specialize it. You can put it in the README. As soon as we create this repository, there is an official place to put bug reports on our repository. So that would probably be the place for it, but the README is fine. It's just a text file. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just one more pass after you finish about what went wrong, what you did to fix it, and that final reflection on everything. Git ignore, we'll talk about that at some point. Other languages doesn't have it. Python officially does have something that says what parts of the code to ignore. It's like, this is for the developer. Nobody outside that installs this needs to worry about it. Python officially has one, our other languages don't, so it's built into repositories as well. Obviously, GitHub isn't our only repository. And usually we want to put a license on stuff. Apache, GNU, MIT, BSD, the common open source licenses, or I'll just click the top one. And we have all that stuff that we want when we set one up right there. I think the website's the easiest way. Then we get this place, we can just get add file and drag and drop stuff to put it on here. We'll look at the terminal and the GUI and other things soon. We go to it's on C drive. What was that? It's in documents. I forgot what I was looking for a second. And here's that first example. I'll drag that over there. And anything you do in this class, you will definitely be under the 100 file limit. So it won't be any trouble to upload it. Make some notes. First upload in class. This was in the example. We're setting up our repositories. Usually we can skip that part. We'll come back and look at that sentence I just typed in a couple weeks. That's why it's there. We put it on the main branch, two separate branches, and bring them back together later. For comparisons, we'll talk about all that. I'll just go ahead and put it on the main branch. Now that file's on there. And this second tab here, issues, that would be the place where you would normally report bugs, because anybody can come in here and post a comment and be like, oh, there seems to be an issue. And other people can look and be like, oh, this bug's already been reported. The developer said to do this to fix it. So for the bug report, one of the industry standards would be to use the issues tab on GitHub. If you want to do your bug report that way and try to formalize it like a normal thing. Like post the bug and then come back later and put your reply on what was done to fix it. Otherwise, it's like a forum. It's posting. Create an issue. Once it's there, then it looks a lot like our discussion boards in iRelearn, where there's a place to post a new one and reply to the existing ones. Be like, oh, I found a better fix than what the developer put on here. It's a lot easier just to do it this way. Add that as an arbitrary comment. We did have one big Emoji Module does not have basic smiley face and title class 1 example bug report. So this would be like the industry standard if you want to set it up that way. Put a title on there, post it on there. Like, oh, I figured out how to fix that. So what I'm gonna do is come over here, click on this one, and come over here and say fixed by using a emoji included in the library. Y'all have probably seen those on Google searches and stuff, right? Going right to the GitHub issues tab to see what went wrong and what was done to fix it. So that would be an official one if you want to use that. I'll put thumbs up, string to show what it was, and then comment that to the issue. So we see the issue, then the fix for it. If the fix, close the issue, but it's still there so people can come back and read it. That's an industry standard if you would prefer to do that for the bug report. Throwing it in the comments is fine too, though. I just want you to do that final step. Either way, upload the code. The web interface will work for just about anything we do in the course. A whole lot of preview mode tonight. We're going to talk more about GitHub. There's a lot GitHub can do. In the summer, I'm running an entire course on GitHub. And we're going to spend 8 weeks and do a deep dive and thoroughly learn it. And in part, it's going to be based off a certification thing. So there's a certification you can go buy afterwards. Like that's not going to be included in tuition like some of your other courses. But I'm going to keep that in mind when I do it, so you can buy go pay for one of the certification exams to add on your resume and have GitHub certification or some sort of repository certification. It's the one I was going to look at is Microsoft Azure / GitHub certification. They look good on resumes. But a deep dive into this, we will just be using it a lot, and that's how you'll submit homework. So when you submit homework, you just copy and paste the URL right over. Copy and paste the URL into the homework assignment. Notice we have there's a lot of stuff we do. We'll come back and look at GitHub more, but you want to set up your repository to begin with, when you're going to use to submit stuff. Choose an IDE, whatever your preferred text editor is. Somebody already commented they didn't care about Triangle. And yeah, if you have any questions, comments, feel free to unmute, speak up. Or somebody say once there's no such thing as an interruption on the Zoom call. I like that.
I have a question, Chris. Did I see that we're going to be using Replit too?
Oh, if you want, those are some options. I just listed out the options.
Okay.
Yeah, however you pronounce it. It was actually developed by Czechoslovakians. So in Czechoslovakia, I had to look this up once. Apparently the pronunciation for the letter E in Czechoslovakia is I. So the people who created it call it Ripple. But that throws Americans off for sure, right? So however you want to call it, that very popular cloud-based IDE. There's lots of them out there.
So at this point, I downloaded Spider, and then from there, then I can follow all these commands and then do the Jupyter notebooks and all that from the command line, doing pip Jupyter notebooks or install Jupyter notebooks. So, but right now, okay.
Install notebook, or if you want to do that right in Spider, make sure you put an exclamation mark first.
Okay.
The character to step back to the terminal.
And can I do all of them? And if I did any of those in Spider, I would just do the same thing, just exclamation point. And okay, thanks.
Any terminal command. So if you want to do like make directory, change directory, and have run files from a different spot, and ping a different machine, right? That's just how you pass in the terminal commands. That's a great question, Kev, because yeah, that's just going to show up throughout the semester. But that should be enough to get started. The introduction discussion board, does anybody have any questions about that? And want to get that, get your repository set up, choose your IDE, whichever one you want to use will be fine. I will try to use different ones. You will need at least one text-based one to do the traditional .py files and a notebook. There's also Google Colab. Since you mentioned Ripple, Rappel, however you want to pronounce it, I always look at that word and think Rappel. Rappel IT. But if you like cloud-based things, Jupyter Notebooks is an open source project, so Google also had added one to their Office suite. And it's an update on it, so they added features to it. Has some really nice features. Google Colab has that here, new notebook, and yeah, we have all the same stuff. Buttons to add a cell of code or add a cell of text. but it's an active subject. We learn by doing, right? So you want to click around that, try different things, see which ones you like, and it's on Google. It's part of Google Office Suite, so there's a share button. You can just share the notebook. And if you upload a notebook to GitHub, we didn't have that tonight. GitHub will preview it. GitHub knows what they are, so it will display all the markup cells correctly and things. There's multiple options. I guess this is a short thing. Choose which one you like. It's up to you. As long as you have a place to write and run code, run Python code, we'll be good. And a terminal and permission to do things on the computer you're on. Which, yeah, here in the lab computer we have permission. That's why we're not in one of the regular Ivy Tech labs. We have the special username and passwords. And then the first assignment is just some basic Python, the introduction, and then some basic Python syntax. Make sure you can work with the number operators and things like that, whichever one you use, right out of the textbook, but right in those early Python syntax chapters of that. So like this is the syntax for adding and multiplying and a few things there. And then make sure you address any prompts. So if the problem has you write some code and run it and then ask you a question, remember to answer that because that is part of the homework. So in Jupyter Notebooks, it's nice because then you can do that in a markdown cell. You write your Python code in one cell, get the output of it, and right below it, do your analysis of what that output means.
And you said when we do that, so on that markdown, and it dropped to that next line, those notes that you put there, that's something that won't, that is we can only see.
No, it's part of the notebook. It's an entire cell. Let me open one up here real quick. So here's the one that was earlier. I don't think I saved anything. Oh, it did save. So yeah, it's part of the notebook. So let me save. So, well, it's saved. So I can go back over to GitHub and add another file, upload files. And the IPython extension. So IPython notebook is what that stands for. Drag that over, and when we commit the changes, notice I didn't put a message that way. I didn't put an extra little message that time. So here's that notebook, and on GitHub, where we only have view access, right? We can't edit right on GitHub. We have to download the files, change them, and then upload them, re-upload them. You can see that. Oh, why did that not work? The notebook took too long to render. Okay, it should preview here. I don't know why it's not. You saw the message that said notebook. It knows what it is. That's weird. We're good to roll. Oh, draw gives the JSON. Should I be on this one? Nope. It should preview here. I don't know why it's not previewing. I'll have to look into it. It might be that HTML throwing things off or something got off. Maybe I should have. Oh, wait. I probably should have done this. Over here, go to File and download as that. I'll try making a copy of it. Oh, that should have opened right. I'm not sure why it's not previewing, but your notebook should preview fine when you open it. Let me try and do it. File, new notebook. A simpler one. X is 3, Y is 4. Alt enter, import emoji, alt enter, and then print X times Y and print emoji dot Emojize. Thumbs up. Oops, that needs to be a string. One thing I do always worry about is I don't really know the emoji language. So I'm always worried whenever I'm including it in a lecture. It's like, I hope I don't type something that's inappropriate in emojis, then I don't know, because my teenage years were a very, very long time ago. I don't communicate with emojis very often. I don't use those very often. But you see how that stuff worked. So now if I save this, it saved this untitled one. It didn't even give me a chance to change the name. So I'm gonna save as so I can change the name. So it's in the right folder. And this is first class example. Maybe this one will preview properly. I go up here and upload the file. Oh, accidentally, I must have hit the wrong button. Accidentally set it to open all the notebooks with Sublime Text Editor, which some text editors will actually recognize. But there's probably that markup language because GitHub has their own specific markdown language. And I used HTML, which is a markup language, not a markdown language. But I thought it should have still worked. Let's see if this one renders properly. Okay, yeah. So you see it goes right in the output div.
Thank you. And then we don't have to give it an extension. I noticed you just named it and then it automatically did the IP or the PYNB.
It has to be an IPython.
Okay.
Don't change the extension. If you try to give it an extension, it will add it on afterwards. And
At the very end.
you'll have several dots there. Yeah, that means something very specific. And you'll notice if I go open it, it's accidentally changed it to Python, or if I just click view the raw code, it's actually JSON. It's not even Python. It saves it as JSON data.
JSON. I just have one more question. Is there somewhere we can find all of those commands for where you were saying like control or alt enter and all that?
I was going to work them in slowly. If you go up to, if you hover over the buttons, will it say that?
I'll just wait if you're going to work them in slowly. I don't want to. Never mind. Okay.
Alt enter and control enter are the two main ones.
Okay.
Obviously, enter just gives you a new line in that cell. Control enter runs the cell you're in. Alt enter runs the cell and creates the new, moves to the next cell. Those are the two big ones. The other ones I was going to work in slowly along the way. If you go to Google Colab, their buttons might hover. It has the same ones, but I don't see them here. Oh, there it is. Under cell, it has the shortcuts there.
Okay.
Instead of run cell, control enter, run cell and select below is shift enter. Run cell and insert below is alt enter. Or run all cells, run all the cells above the one you're in, run all the cells below the one you're in. There's lots of control over it. We'll work it in slowly. It's preview night. Tonight was mostly about policies and things like that. Anybody have any other questions? I'll try to see if I can figure out why that didn't preview, because I've done that many, many times and it shouldn't have much trouble. We've got a lot of stuff to cover. It's not just Python. It's how Python fits into modern software development. That's what we're looking at this class. This is a software development class and we just happen to be using Python. We're going to look at Python in more depth, but most of you, as you all are all well aware, I believe Python is really easy to work with. So we can dive a little bit further than some of our other training language courses, especially since everybody's seen it before. That's the bit. You'll see there's not a whole lot of to-do stuff on module 1. Get set up, do that introduction assignment, quick book assignment. And then this is new technology report is by the end of the semester. So you have to turn that in this week. There's a couple reminders along the way. But as you all are well aware, when we get near the end of the semester, when that's actually due, we'll probably be busy. So all you have to do is write a paragraph on a new 3 paragraphs on new technology. If week one's slow, that might be the best time to do the new technology report. Because if you know you're going to choose a really big topic, you have something really awesome in mind, and you know you're going to be overwhelmed in week 7 and 8. Wouldn't hurt to get that knocked out. Otherwise, any questions? Still a lot of stuff to go over, but that'll hopefully get a nice little start and give you an idea of how it is. If you haven't had me in class before, you might have noticed I'm easily distracted. So if you have something in particular you're interested in, feel free to ask it, because this is an 8-week-long course. We cannot cover every single thing. Everything there is to know about Python cannot possibly fit in 8 weeks. So it's a sampling of things. So if you have something of particular interest to you, go ahead and ask about it, and we'll talk about it in class. There's lots of stuff because we can't fit it all. So I had to kind of generalize it, and I don't know what I know what some of y'all's personal goals and interests are, but I don't know what everybody's personal goals and interests are. So if you want me to focus on a certain thing, just let me know. Otherwise, does anybody have any questions before we wrap up here?
Nope, this is definitely one of the more interesting classes this semester.
Thank you. Hopefully it's going to be a lot of fun. I really do like the Python programming language. First time I used Python was in 2006, when it was still just very, very slow, and we never did any big things with it. So I've been using it for a while. I really like it, but there's always ups and downs. We talked about that earlier. It's a great language to know. And if we exclude the obvious, right, JavaScript is a standard on the internet, and the internet runs our world. So obviously that's the most used programming language, that standard. So if we exclude the obvious and go and look at what programmers choose, Python is by far the most popular programming language to use in our world. And it's a great one to know. A lot of advantages, disadvantages of everything, but we will see quite a bit this semester. You can go ahead and preview, look ahead, see what's there. We'll see it used in traditional applications. Our projects are going to be a web framework, so we're going to make a website. We're going to make a web application, don't make a website. That's some people off before, since things have started transitioning. Only need the application. I only need the one page on the website that runs Python. You can just imagine tell me about it in a paragraph, and I can imagine what the rest of the website looks like. I just need the application on the web. We can do that. We'll see Docker, a few different things, IoT things, data science. If you're interested in machine learning, I signed you up for the AWS one. It didn't take too long to get through that. That'll make a good little introduction to it that uses Python and uses Jupyter notebooks all the way through. They're all set up and stuff. So okay. I assume there's no questions. Let me check the chat room again. Okay, yes, I really like teaching this class. I have fun coding. I do actually have fun coding. I feel the same when I write a program as if I grab the guitar and write a song, or pull out the paints and paint a picture. It's art. I refer to that way many times and actually enjoy it. So hopefully we're going to have a great semester. If you have any questions, let me know. Your schedule should have this time slot blocked off until 9:50, right? Everybody's schedule says learn Python until 9:50. Please use our time productively. I will be sitting around until 9:50 ready to answer questions. I call it lab time. We're gonna wrap up the Zoom call. Do have to end the Zoom call to get the video. It doesn't start rendering that down till afterwards. Those who are on campus, if you want to head on home. At this point of the day, most people have had a long day by now, right? But I will be sitting around until 8:50, ready to answer questions immediately. As I said earlier, during the semester, the two things that make noise on my phone, so the quickest way are text messages and should be the inbox, but since they made that update, it's been taking an hour for the inbox to get to my phone. Text messages are the quickest way to get a hold of me. I'm going to be sitting here watching the inbox of my email until 9:50. If you have a question, let me know. Otherwise, that'll be it for today, and I will see y'all on Monday, and we'll just pick up from there and not in preview mode. So some of it, it'll be more detailed and thorough. But I wanted to try to get through a bunch of stuff tonight and see that interesting stuff. And otherwise, you all have a great weekend. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll see you on Monday.
Thanks, Chris.
You're welcome. Oh. Get this stop recording. Have a good weekend. Stop recording.